TV's
How's
not.
that? Okay, thank you.
TV's not on. Oh, okay.
There's Gary.
Sorry.
Call the meeting to order, the North Branford Planning and Zoning, Thursday, September
17.
17.
September 16th,
17th.
17th, 2015. We have a roll call. In attendance is Fran Leskovich, member, Ron Sienna, member, and David Hutgreen, member. Was anybody here for the minutes of the last meeting to approve them? Have you read them?
So I had everyone who's here as being at that meeting.
Anybody want to approve the meetings?
I motion we approve the meeting, the minutes of September 3rd? Is that it?
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Meetings, the minutes are accepted. Public hearing is still on the agenda. The special use permit for a request for section 23(1), section A, line C5, to allow a restaurant at 1565 Middletown Avenue. And that has been continued till today.
Yes. I don't know if you want to read that into the record. They requested an extension.
The applicant has requested an extension for 14 days of the September 17th meeting with reference to the above regards in the property at 1565 Middletown Avenue. We humbly request an extension of 14 days for our scheduled September 17th meeting before the Planning and Zoning. The above will allow us to resolve the issues with the East Shore Health Department. Our engineer, Nafis and Young, is in contact with Alex and will await the outcome on the septic drawings and report. For your information, we've already resolved the sprinkler system with the fire marshal. We are waiting for a report on that. We are waiting for a report on the bridge as an inspection was scheduled today. Thank you for your understanding. Anton Samurai, owner.
Do we have to vote on the extension?
Yes, because we're going to publish it in the newspaper, so.
All right, so we want to take a vote on the extension.
I motion we grant the extension of 14 days.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
So
All
we
opposed?
continue to October 1st.
Yeah, but continue till October 1st. Let's see. The next new business is a request for a bound release, 2470 Foxen Road, PZ number 2006/0722.
That one I'm going to have to postpone till October 1st because I don't have all of the information on that one.
All
From
right.
both the applicant and the engineer.
So let's see what's next. The application 2014/15-6 site plan development is still continued indefinitely because the Connecticut Department of Energy Environmental Service Protection has not finished its review of the application.
Any updates?
There's no updates as far as I know.
No.
What they said they couldn't. They're gonna build a town, so each time they build a town, wouldn't they give us an update?
We haven't received any bills.
Okay.
We will. Let's see, under new business. The zoning permit for the temporary storage tank on 90 Road.
Oh, no, we're actually,
We're not doing that.
there you go. Right, so here's B.
Okay, so P&Z application 2015-12, site development plan administrative approval under 61.4.2 to bring the property at 77 Fowler Road into compliance with zoning regulations. Owner applicant George Bermundi.
So, do you want to hear from the applicant first and
Sure.
he's here this evening?
Mr. Bermundi?
Yes. I'm here with my father today, who insisted on being here. I actually had to break him out at Branford Hills Healthcare to be here, but I think it's important that he's been here. We stood together 28 years ago at the old town hall for this very same application, and mistakes were made, and we're here to clear it up and move on and do what we have to do. Just want to bring up, my father, the owner at the time, and I went with our initial plans for approval in 1987. The building's residential and design and mixed-use intentions were verbally discussed, and any questions addressed were answered. I regret none of the audio tapes are available as evidence, but I believe the plans and building's distinct design will speak for itself. Being an already existing grandfather residential use of the property, we were led to believe that the application in 1987 was for the business approval use in a mixed-use building, and no special use permits or variance were necessary for a second-floor apartment. May I also add, one of the conditions at the time was to bring in city water to the property before approval could be made, since the groundwater was contaminated because of the proximity to the Old Town dump. This was a huge cost to the construction at the time. Since I was to live there, we felt this was a justified investment. Most of the first floor, once an established machine shop business, has been closed for almost 20 years. It is currently being used for storage. This was done for several reasons: the failing of the economy, my health, and the death of my first wife, a partner in our business. Claiming hardship, we went for a second dwelling unit approval in January 16, 1992, which was unanimously welcomed. These dwelling units have been fully disclosed and continuously occupied with residents since the mid-90s. As required, nearly 30 years of rental income has been reported in annual income and expense reports. The property's buildings has always been taxed accordingly, non-conforming mixed-use multi-dwelling property in an I-2 zone. They have had separate inspected and approved electrical meters since 1987 and 1995 with a certificate of occupancy issued. The town has on record separate tenant mailing addresses as well. Those were assessed and taxed all those years without question. Recently, the town P&Z staff did a building inspection, safety inspection of the two units, and found no issues to report. And the interior configurations were found to be in line with the original submitted plans as well. Many of the former town officials, as well as former Carol Zeb herself, have been in the premises for inspections and were all aware of our dwellings and never had any issue as to its existence or use. It is no secret, since the zone changed from residential to I-2 in the 1980s, our area has little or no interest or enforcement of rules or zoning and relations of any kind. The residents there have literally fended for themselves over the years. The I-2 zoning approval made in the 80s essentially blackballed any of our existing homes to typical opportunities such as residential mortgage rates, second mortgage rates, home equity, and reverse mortgages. These encumbrances make things extremely difficult to keep and maintain our properties and to profit from any of our investments. In an effort to keep my taxes affordable, in a comparison, I found not only do I have the smallest parcel, only a half acre, ironically, I also pay the highest taxes per square foot lot assessment in the I-2 zone. The building's residential ceiling height and accessibility to such utilities such as gas, sewer, and three-phase power severely restricts its call for any industrial use. Its central proximity and continued use as a residence is key to the peace, safety, and balance of the neighborhood, which has grown over the years to include many children and other residences. This small, struggling community that resides here is unique. It may be the only one of its kind in our town. It should be treated as such so we can maintain the rights and peaceful existence. It was quoted by one town official that the approximate one-block community of mixed-use, non-conforming residents and businesses on Fowler Road serves as the most important buffer between the recycling plant on Ciro and the 50 Fowler Road Retirement Village project. It's not uncommon to facilitate living accommodations in an industrial and in commercial buildings for owners, maintenance workers, and visiting customers from out of town. In fact, the current trend is to repurpose vacant industrial buildings into dwelling units all over the country to help bring in the needed tax revenue. My intentions are to cooperate with their suggestions and pay any fees and file or correct any paperwork that may have inadvertently been missed, either by myself or the town officials during that period. Approving this would be the first step of avoiding any liability issues that could arise from its current use, and it would also clear up any encumbrances in the event of a future sale of the property. I believe its current use is the best use for the property with its buildings, and has been an essential lifeline that I have depended on over the years since becoming disabled in 1996. This property has been my home since 1987, where I serve as block watch leader and representative for the community at town meetings. I've relied on these 2 units' income to maintain the premises and pay my taxes. I'm asking for the town council's blessing in this matter so I can remain an upstanding North Branford resident and taxpayer. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Are you familiar with the property?
Yes, so Linda Reed, the zoning enforcement officer, and I, and the building official, Tom Cowell, went out to the property a few weeks ago. It was brought to our attention that there was a unit that was for rent, and so that's where kind of the questions started as far as has this been approved, because there is a single-family home on the property that you can see on this.
Existing house on front.
Yes. So there's the existing house that's closer to the curve in Fowler Road. And the proposed building is actually the building that was built and received approval, as Mr. Bierbunger has said, in the 80s.
87 was the
And-
initial.
Right.
Where's the proposal on the map though? I see
This-
parking, and I see on the back says proposed storage area, so where's the proposed unit?
It's the whole square is the proposed building where it's just,
Oh, okay, so it's not proposed, it's there.
it's there, right.
Okay.
So
And it's got a mailing address?
if you look on the
Yes, it does,
site
and
plan on the
separate
corner,
electrical
it's
meters.
dated October 1987.
Okay.
So it was proposed in 87 and was approved. We have building permits on file. Where I raised questions was it said maybe maintenance shop or some kind of business use with upstairs, and it said APTIC. So it wasn't clear if it was attic or apartment, because it was a combination of the two. And Mr. Biermunger had said, no, we had proposed that it was an upstairs apartment. We said that it was mixed use from the beginning. We just didn't have anything on file regarding an accessory dwelling, especially in an accessory building that's not attached to the primary structure.
What's he been paying taxes on?
Mixed-use, multi-dwelling property.
That address is on a tax basis of being taxed as an apartment or what?
Absolutely.
Does it come
The
up as
last
mixed
30
use for
years.
the accessory?
That's
And
what we
that's-
claimed in the assessments for the last 30 years. My father, I've only been the owner for the last 10 years, and before that, faithfully, my father has always filed, and since taking over the building, I've always filed as well and declared all our incomes to the penny.
And unfortunately, that's not uncommon for the assessor's office to have one thing and for our office to have another. So for instance, they may be taxing someone on a deck or a shed, or maybe those aren't good examples, but something where maybe the resident didn't go through the proper channels to get permits on our end. Or they may know about an accessory dwelling, an in-law apartment, but the homeowner didn't go through the right channels to get permits through us, which is what seems to have happened in this case. So it may have been existing all these years. I just can't find any record of it in the planning department and zoning department saying that it was approved by this board.
What about the minutes?
The minutes, we did find, you found something.
I went through like 20 years worth of minutes, and I did find that we were, I didn't get a chance to go through the initial one, but I did go through the second application where we went back and asked for the second unit, and they basically gave us their blessings then as well. Nobody said anything that we had to go for a variance or this or that or anything like that.
It's true that the minutes didn't say specifically a variance or a permit, but it said that they would need to work with the planner at the time to figure out what the next steps were. And whether or not that happened, I don't know, because I didn't go through the meeting minutes
Well,
from then until
How
then.
did you get a certificate of occupancy if you didn't have the permits?
Well, he may have gotten a certificate of occupancy for the shop, as a shop. And maybe over the years it was converted to dwelling.
The last inspection that I have was the whole building and with the second apartment meter put in. They had to call that in from their office in order to get the electricity turned on. There's no way I could have done that without a CO. Like I said, I think it's a matter of, they went through a lot of people here in the last 10 years and few of them dropped the ball. Like I said, I tried to come up with the tapes and stuff to back me up, and she told me they weren't accessible. So I'm just here to do what I need to do to.
I know we've added apartments on above industrial property now for apartments, right? That's over on Route 80 there.
I don't know if that's industrial or business. I think those are business.
What does the void or superseded mean on this? The stamp?
Well, possibly that this plan was superseded by something else. Do you know where that came from? It
What's
says
that?
the stamp on here says void or superseded.
I have no idea what that is. I have no idea. I saw that too. Don't have a clue.
Well, at this point, I really believe
Can I
that.
approach the bench and just take a look at what you're looking at?
This is just a copy of what you had submitted.
I got that copy from you, so I couldn't tell you. You gave me that, and that's what I made my copies from. Why that would say
Well, it seems like he's got, been paying taxes on it, he's got. he's reported it.
Unfortunately, we can't approve it until you get a variance,
Right.
which,
So-
you know,
Sorry, so just to outline the steps, so, we're trying to work with residents to bring them
Absolutely.
through the process, to bring it all into compliance, to clear up any issues, again, as Mr. Beermonger said, going forward with any refinancing or any issues. So that step would include a use variance, because multifamily, because that's what it would be in an industrial zone, is prohibited. So in the regulations, it says that the applicant has to come here first, get site plan approval, and then planning and zoning makes a recommendation to the ZBA. And so that was the track that we were putting him on. I've referred this information around to the various departments. I just received these on last Friday, the 11th. And so I haven't heard back from East Shore Health. I put a call into them to see if they have any comments, but they haven't had a chance to review it at this time. I do have comments from the town engineer, and he said there are no outstanding engineering staff comments regarding the application since no site work is proposed. And then the building official is the last person that I have to hear from as well.
So who would go get the variance from?
ZBA.
ZBA.
But we have to approve his site plan, and then she sends a ZBA. And since it's been in use exactly this way, and I don't know what the void or superseded mean, but it looks like it had been approved, I say his next step is to go for the variance.
So do you want, so we haven't received a zoning board of appeals application yet from Mr. Biermonger. I think from what I understand, you've been working closely with Linda Reed, the new CEO, and
Right.
deciding, okay, based on what planning and zoning said, then he would probably go forward with a ZBA application. But since I think the next meeting that we could get you on is in October, if we get your application soon, would the commission entertain the idea of having him come back, or maybe he doesn't even need to come back, but just wait for comments from East Shore Health before you provide a report?
I don't see why he has to come back to us before he goes to ZBA. If you make sure that all his i's are dotted and you get the referral, there's no reason for us to see him again and go through the same thing.
Okay, so,
Agree?
I
Yeah.
agree, absolutely.
do you wanna have a condition just to incorporate any comments from East Shore Health, or not even?
Is there a possibility you could have an approval already that's just been in place in town?
Very well.
Could be, I mean, anything's possible.
What's that?
That he has approvals that they just can't find, they've been misplaced.
Unfortunately, can't use word of mouth. We have to,
But I mean, he had approved the building, and he's been paying taxes, and I mean,
absolutely.
had the neighbors in, and.
Well, there was definitely an approval for the building. That's where it just seems strange to me that we would lose just part of it, because the approval, these plans, obviously there was a lot of work and effort put into getting this approved.
What about that speed off shop over on 80?
That's where I started, yes, years ago, sir,
Okay.
back in
Over
1984.
by the mobile shop, right? I mean-
Yeah, I was one of the few businesses that made it out of that area and moved into another business and grew until I had some.
Unfortunately, if down the line you decide to sell the property, you're gonna have this come up because no lawyer is gonna let it go
I know
through.
that, and that's
So
why
you
I'm here to
really
do
have to get
whatever I
it
have to
straightened
do.
out.
Absolutely,
Whether,
absolutely.
however it stands, and we all believe that this has been
Yeah.
an error on somebody's part way back when.
Not pointing any fingers, I just want to clear it
Right.
up. And
You have to go on from-
no doubt
from here.
whatsoever, and just make it, do what I have to do. Right now, like I said, I'm disabled, and I'm depending on that income to live on and upkeep the building, and I have not rented the other apartment out until I get an okay here, and it's killing me.
Well, as soon as you can get the application into Cary,
Yeah,
the ball get rolling for you.
it's ready to go. I
Unfortunately,
just
there's
wanted to
nothing
make
we
sure.
can do
I understand.
to do anything else,
Thank you.
unfortunately.
So
And
do
of
you-
course, we also have to have the approval of, we have the town engineer and,
Yeah, she's,
yeah,
but we
East
left
Shore,
it.
East Shore is the holdout.
Right, you sure.
Right, so based on that, I did not draft a motion for this evening,
Right.
because just like any other site development, site plan approval, I'd like to cite the plans that have been submitted here.
Well, can you write something up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward,
I don't think there's.
so it's not held up again.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be any issue with them, since I do have a large septic tank and it's just mainly me living there. I am remarried, I do have a wife, but right now she's with her mother in Waterbury. She's 94 years old, so, plus she works in Waterbury, so I only get to see her 2 days a week. And that other apartment is only a one-bedroom, so.
This site plan here, Gary, though, is this for the main house or for the existing, additional building?
That's all the main building.
The main house, the existing house, or the proposed building?
The proposed building, that's what this would be for, a site
Okay.
plan.
So this proposed building has a living room in it and,
That's
living room,
today's,
bedrooms.
that's
storage.
today's application.
Oh, that's today, I think that was existing. It says 1992 on it.
That's when we came for the second time and we put in the apartment.
Okay.
This is the upstairs.
So if they got approval from 92, they're approved as living space.
This isn't what is shown on our microfiche.
You know, the only thing that's different from the microfiche in this is the fact that this here was not submitted in the original. This was when we came back in '92.
And our microfiche doesn't show 92.
I was asked to,
But even if it had, the site plan was approved, it's a multi-use dwelling which is not permitted, and we don't have a variance that says it is permitted, regardless of the fact that it's been used that way for several
No,
years.
but I was asking
So,
If the plan was approved in '92 as a multi-use.
but I understand that, and I believe that it absolutely was. But still, if the gentleman doesn't get it resolved
Oh,
now,
yeah, I know, I'm just asking.
then he's
why-
gonna have a problem
If
later.
the plan from '92 showed it as a multi-use and was approved, and it shows approved in the minutes, and these are the exact plans, something got missed along the way.
Right, exactly. So now is the only time is to go from here on in and straighten it out. I don't think you're gonna have a problem since we all agree that these plans were approved. But we still can't do anything unless we have that variance. So get your application in, Gary's writing up our approval right now, and we'll put that on record.
This is the survey stamp.
I wish it could be easier, but
I
I know
understand.
down the line,
Whatever
you're
has to
gonna
be
have a
done.
problem.
I know that.
So
It's a
better
good
to get it
thing.
over
And
with.
I just want to say another thing. I think the current staff that we have here is a good one, and it's the first time that they're actually doing their job and care about what they're doing. And I'm not just saying Carrie, the other two people that came down. I think we got a good staff, and I think we got to hold on to these 3 people that are in there right now.
Well, we hope so.
I have one question for your father.
It's hard of hearing, so you know.
Fred Beermunder, related at all?
Brother.
Brother, Myrtle Beach brother.
Yeah, he moved, I worked with Fred for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So he's down, yeah, in Spectrum Plastics.
Did you believe everything he told you? You couldn't believe anything he ever told you.
He's a salesman.
Yes. He's actually, is he here? Is he here? He just was here this weekend.
Okay.
No, they can't hear, but I put it way down, otherwise it makes
He
pretty
was,
noise.
he was in rehab recently for medical issues and
I took
actually
my
came down.
hearing aids down, so the chirping wouldn't disturb your counsel.
Yeah, Fred was just here this weekend to visit him.
How's he doing?
He's doing great. His house is like the go-to for every family member now on vacation.
On the golf course, right?
Yep, right on the golf course.
Terry, do any microfiches have a stamp on them? We don't have any stamps on them.
I forget. I don't think so. This looks very similar to the microfiche. As do the floor layouts, just not with this revised information and not with the labeling of the
Yeah, the
roads.
building inspector asked me to label everything and to
Updated, current?
update it to current, and that's what I
Okay.
did. Actually, I had already done that, not even knowing it. I went back to dig in my plans, and I said, it's already done in '92, when we were in front of asking for the second apartment.
I guess we have to do an inspection of the second floor to make sure it has its fire code.
They did. They were up there.
Okay.
They inspected the upstairs and the downstairs. I gave them all a walkthrough, and the building inspector, he actually complimented me on my building design when he got into the laundry room and saw the walk-in closet off the bedroom, and I went to the laundry room. He says, wow, what a great idea.
So would you like to add the conditions based, subject to approval by,
By
or comments?
By administration.
You sure, town engineer?
Kurt already put it.
Came on a good night, there's nothing else on the agenda.
I'm glad that you could squeeze me on.
Would you like to read it, Ron?
Motion to approve application 2015-12, site development plan, administrative approval under section, is that 61?
Yes.
.4.2, to bring the property at 77 Fowler Road into compliance with the zoning regulation based on the following plans. AMT Design and Construction, Red Line Speed Shop, North Branford, Connecticut, isometric, date March 23, 1987, page 1 through 6, pages 2 and 3 revised to 1/2/92, and site plan property of George and Teresa Beermonger. I apologize. North Branford, Connecticut, dated October 1987, scale 1 inch equals 20 feet, subject to comments of building officials and East Shore Health District.
Second,
Second motion to approve the, motion?
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so now it's up to you to get your,
Thank you so much for your consideration.
you're welcome. All right, the next thing on the agenda,
Have a good evening.
I don't know which one we're working on here. Request for bond release?
Oh, nope, keep going.
Okay.
The top.
Is that continue?
The bond
That was
release.
postponed
Yes,
until
continue over.
October 1st. P&Z application 2015 dash, oh, we did that, I'm sorry. The next is the town planner's report.
Yes, so one item that's on there, you'll remember a few meetings ago, I raised the question regarding, and there was actually the property owner. Address is Parsonage Hill Road, specifically 238 Parsonage Hill Road. And there was a conservation easement that was placed on the property back in the 90s when the property was subdivided. These are meeting minutes from that meeting. And I was contacted by the property owner's attorney, who has started looking into the possibility of releasing the conservation easement. Planning and zoning would have to approve that release before he goes to the court to make a judgment or file something with the court. He wanted me to ask you what your take was on whether or not you would entertain releasing the conservation easement. So if you look on the second page, I have put an asterisk next to Roman numeral 5, new business. Application 92-9, 2-lot subdivision. It was on 238 Parsonage Hill Road. And then the meeting minutes. It's fairly skimpy regarding the conservation easement. It just says that, let's see, on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th paragraph down, there was also discussion on the conservation easement for this area to the rear of the site. The commission requested that this be deeded to the land trust in order to preserve the natural habitat. It was confirmed that there would be no direct access to this parcel, If the land trust does not accept this, the commission advised that the area could be contained as part of Lot 2 and a conservation easement be filed. So the latter is what actually happened. The land trust never actually took ownership of it.
Did they develop the property?
No, there's a conservation easement recorded, and the current property owner didn't realize that it was there until she had the property on the market, which it still is.
But did
And
she
George DePoto, who abuts the property, had his attorney do deed research, and they came up with this conservation easement. She wasn't even aware of it.
Or did they split the lot?
I'm sorry?
Did they split the lot, the two lots?
Originally, this was the,
Because it says, this is, approval shall be null and void if the site improvements are not completed within 5 years of approval.
all of that work was done.
Okay, so they didn't split the lot then.
This was the original filing back in 92. So here's Parsonage Hill Road, Middletown Ave, Village Street. So Village and Parsonage Hill join here. It's near there at 238. It was subdivided into 2 lots. Lot 1 to the north, Lot 2 to the south. But the condition, as was, I just read in the minutes, said that for Lot 2, there'd be a conservation easement. That's what was recently discovered.
3 acres.
Yes. So this is the property that they are trying to sell. They were trying to sell this whole parcel, which goes with 238, to George DePoto, who owns this, because he was looking to expand his business into here. But then he found out that there was this conservation easement and then walked away because he can't do anything with the land. This woman is trying to sell her home, but is finding that
that's
the
the trucking one,
conservation
right?
easement, right, is she feels like it's restricting her. So now she has an attorney looking into, can this conservation easement be repealed, be removed, changed? And so her attorney spoke with me last Friday and said, is there any way you can ask the commission if they'd entertain removing this easement? Because if so, then he can file something with the court going to the next step of
What was the
removing.
reason that they had such a large
That,
conservation?
all I have are the minutes, Fran, and it, like I say, it's pretty
I mean, it's a
thin.
pretty substantial piece of land
Yes.
to be
Is it
put in
wetlands there?
conservation,
Does it abut?
even by our standards.
Does it abut other open land?
No.
So it'd be a landlocked piece of property that our conservation would have to maintain?
Yes.
And if they develop it, it becomes taxable?
There's no
They can't
wetlands.
develop it. Oh,
No,
if
the
they,
other-
if they
George, this
removed,
other guy
yes,
buys it.
if they were, if the conservation easement were removed, yes.
Is there wetlands in there at all?
There are some.
I mean, I'm
Yes.
trying to figure
So
out.
here are wetlands. Oh, I'd have to, look at the GIS data later to know generally where it is, but there are wetlands.
Also, what's it zoned?
R40,
So they have to get it rezoned to industrial.
yes,
Now, he wants to buy the house too
yes.
and change both lots to industrial?
No, he was looking to, here's another thing showing the conservation easement. He was looking to,
He had a weird lot to begin with, right?
yes, so his lot,
Is it
has
material lot?
frontage on Middletown Ave, right, and is triangular in shape. He was looking to expand slightly this way, moving the I-2 zone to the southeast, or south, I guess. And so he was looking to have an area, he wasn't sure exactly how wide, but I was talking with him and saying, if this was something that the commission would even entertain, I would expect that you would be looking for more than, you know, the 50-foot or 100-foot boundary from a residential district to industrial, just so that there's more of a buffer.
I mean, it would seem like if he wants to do that first place, it would increase his tax to the town. But secondly is, I would think that as you said, a certain amount of it could be changed to, was it industrial business, whatever he wants here.
Yes.
And then leave the balance of it as open space or something. I mean, it's just such a huge area
Mhm.
for somebody to put in conservation. I can't figure out what their thinking was.
If there's no,
Just to give you an idea as well, so this is the zoning map, and this is where we are. So
Mhm.
George's property, Mr. Dipoto is in the I-2, and this parcel is,
In the R40.
yes, I believe it's this large one.
Well, certainly could entertain, my opinion is, we certainly could entertain the fact that part of it could be the boundary moved so that the man could increase his business and still put the rest so a house can't be put on it, don't change it to an R, change the whole thing or make this a, not a conservation, but an open space so that there's plenty of room between that, the business,
how about
and
get
any
a-
housing.
Get a proposal from this person, how much property they wanna expand it to.
Well, they-
Allow-
I
have them
think-
split that open space to.
Before I think the gentleman does that, he doesn't want to spend a lot of money if he feels we absolutely won't
No, no,
entertain
yeah,
it.
Yeah, we're entertaining it, but we wanna know how much space is gonna be industrial, and how much will be open space, and how much is wetlands there. And as long as the whoever was supposed to take it over doesn't want it, gets an official refusal from them.
Right, well, so I mean, that's a good point in that the town, as we all know, has limited resources, so maintaining conservation
just gonna
easements
say that.
and open space is challenging, so
So
we're
why
actually
not?
looking at now turning those over to the land trust, as many as possible.
So check.
Well, if the land trust would even take it, because it's a landlocked piece
It's
of
landlocked. You have-
property.
you have to
And they don't want
trespass.
to, they don't want to absorb the cost either. So maybe the other alternative would be that he actually purchased the whole property, but we move part of it into so he can expand his business, and he would have to maintain the rest of it, and I think it's probably pretty much overgrown at this point.
Yes, I mean, this is
Leave it as
only
undeveloped.
part of it, but that's,
Yeah.
that's a portion of the.
Yeah, so it's probably
Open
pretty
space.
trees and bush as it is, which leaves a good barrier, and he honestly
better
doesn't
one.
have to do an awful lot of maintenance if he's willing to do that. It would seem like it would solve the problem.
Because this is his road, his property, he wants to go farther.
So this is the or
Yes.
this.
Yes.
All right, so, it wouldn't seem like he'd have an awful lot of maintenance to do, and that leave a big buffer, and that would have to be in his deed, that if it was ever sold, that's the way it's sold, this
Extension.
property cannot be developed, it's to be maintained by the owner as, no, not as open space, but as,
Undeveloped.
undeveloped, whatever you wanna call it.
And going back to the, example of the assessors, this property owner, as she said, when she was here, she's been taxed on that, not as conservation land, but as, I guess, buildable land, or whatever category it
How
is.
could they do that?
It's not a
Because
building lot.
this conservation easement wasn't passed along through whatever proper channels to the assessor's office
Oh
or
my
to.
goodness.
But that's one big
whoever.
lot, though. It's not lot 2 and 3, it's one lot.
Yeah, it's 3 acres,
Right, but
Well-
you're
Well,
still
that's
taxed
3 acres
on
plus.
different uses based on
Right,
the
which.
use of that section
So
of
it
the
wasn't
first-
picked up by it wasn't made, well, they did make it conservation, so who was responsible for it?
Well, it says in the meeting minutes, the town, or ideally the land trust, and if the land trust didn't
Right.
want it, then it falls to the town.
Okay, but, so why was she being taxed on it?
Her tax is only on this property here, this is an easement.
No, she says that she's being taxed on the whole
Well,
thing.
Right, they didn't-
she's saying she is, but is she?
Well, I don't know, I mean, that's up first
That's
place,
what-
that
that's what
isn't even
she-
in our realm.
Exactly,
If she has a
exactly.
problem with that, all she's gotta do is go back and find out what she's paying taxes
Because it
on.
has here lot 2, and it has the acreage on it, 6.8 acres. So if you pull up her tax sheet, it's gonna say, is it 6.8 acres, or is it
Right, well, like I said, that
10.2 acres?
isn't even our
The
concern.
combined.
Right.
Well,
Our-
just to say she's not being
Yeah,
taxed on it.
right, so,
But this is lot, here's the acreage on this
Exactly.
lot. This lot is another 3.4, so is she
Mhm.
being taxed at 6.8
or 9.
or
Mhm.
10.2?
Mm-hmm. Right, again, her research to be done, and I believe that's what she did, which is what she was claiming at the last meeting, that
But
she had been.
who would take ownership of an easement?
Well, if we reduce the easement, she would have to buy the whole land and get, get the zone pushed back to make it available for her to use the land for her business, with the understanding that the balance of land was not be able to be developed.
Mhm.
It's already wooded,
Right.
so it isn't like she's got to maintain anything.
So it's up to the attorney now to come back to us
Right.
with a proposal, because
Exactly.
it sounds like you are willing to entertain it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's amazing when you go back and you don't find the records that you're supposed to find. I don't know, whatever happened to some of them. Okay.
We got lost in the mood from up the street, right? Or down the street.
Okay, where are we?
So I think we're on town planner's report.
Yes.
So another question that I wanted to ask you is,
And I think this is your copy that you put
oh,
up.
thank you. In working with the new zoning enforcement officer, it's, kind of good practice for me to say, okay, this is how we treat certain things, this is how we don't treat other things. So the question that's come up is coverage. When I calculate coverage, I include buildings, so sheds, gazebos, any structure, a deck, anything, not a patio, but a structure. Pools, I was taught, are not counted as coverage. And I was told that an in-ground or an above-ground pool, you don't count towards coverage, and that was kind of an unwritten rule. So that's what I've been doing.
What do you mean by coverage?
So if you have a lot, that's an acre, or say for these 40,000 square feet, right?
Oh, okay.
And I have a house that's, takes up 1,000 square feet, I have a shed, I have a pool, and I wanna add a gazebo. Well, the coverage requirement for an R40 is 10%, which means 4,000 square feet. So if my home, my gazebo, and my new gazebo and my shed exceed that 4,000, then I need a variance. And if they have a pool in that mix, I haven't been counting the pool towards
And
coverage.
I don't believe the pool should be counted, because first of all, that's like saying, I've got an exotic garden in my yard.
Mhm.
Is that coverage? I don't think so. Even if it has a big fountain in it and a fishing pool or something. That's not counted as coverage.
Don't know.
If you're taxing pools, it's covered. If you don't tax it, it's not covered.
Well, the question is, looking at it a different way, above ground, breaking it down into above ground versus in ground. So an above ground pool is temporary. Someone could have it one summer or for 5 summers as their kids get older. Okay, we don't want the pool anymore. It's removable. So whereas an in-ground pool is more permanent, not totally permanent because you could fill it in,
Right.
but more permanent. So some towns, when you think about coverage, stormwater infiltration is a big issue. So you want to keep the coverage of your lot down to the 10% because you want the rainwater to infiltrate back into the ground. You're not paving a lot, you don't have a lot of buildings on the parcel or structures. But the question is, where do pools fall in that? Are pools counted towards coverage or not? And like I say, I've been.
I would think that coverage is, by definition, covered. Because now you're getting into the realm of, well, how about my driveway? Is the
Right,
driveway
well,
coverage? and
There-
the walk from my driveway
Yes.
to the house.
Yes.
Yeah.
So driveways do fall under a different category. Driveways, there's a percentage of coverage by buildings, storage, and paving as a percentage of lot area, which is 30%. On the zoning permit itself, it asks for just the calculations for buildings, and sorry, it's 20%, not 10%. So it's 20%. So for a 40,000 square foot lot, you can have 8,000 square feet of buildings or structures.
that-
Footprint, not
Okay,
floors.
footprint, okay.
Um,
Square footage coverage.
when you, and this is where, you know, we have these internal debates, but when you look at the definition of a structure, a combination of materials to form a construction for use, occupancy, or ornamentation, whether installed on, above, or below the surface of land or water. All buildings are structures. However, not all structures are buildings. So that's where a
So go
pool,
back to your coverage portion there, first paragraph, no, we use it again, read that again.
a combination of materials to form a construction for use, occupancy, or ornamentation,
All right, use or ornamentation. right,
whether installed on, above, or below the surface of land
Is
or
considered,
water.
is considered what?
A structure.
That's a structure, so you're saying on, in or above,
On or
as long
above.
as it's covering the ground, it's considered a
But
structure.
you also
Hmm.
said more on the next,
All buildings are structures,
but not all
however,
structures
not
are
all
good.
structures are buildings.
But are structures,
So like
Coverage.
a pool, I think would be a structure, right?
right,
Well, what about a shed that's just on like patio blocks?
Which is a good point, because it says here, maximum lot coverage by buildings as percent of lot area.
sheds are covered under code, whether they're permanent or non-permanent.
But are they part of the coverage, lot coverage? Because they can be
Sheds
removed.
are.
Sheds are.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
And
they
they're
can
taxed
remove-
differently whether they're
Yeah.
on a foundation or not on a foundation, right?
I don't know about the taxing.
As far as I'm concerned, it should be part of the coverage, because what are you gonna do? Then go back, and if they decide, you know, the kids are growing, I'm sick of taking care of this pool, I'm closing it all in. Now you're gonna be able to take that away, and besides that, you know how many in-ground pools there are in this town? I think if it's never been part of the coverage,
Practice.
I don't think that we should start opening up that can of worms.
Well, there's a grandfather clause, anything going forward is considered coverage, and everything that's existing is not coverage.
Well,
Which is easier said than done, because say someone who received a variance, someone who received a variance or a permit who has an in-ground pool, and we didn't count that towards coverage, and say they were at 18%, now they wanna add a shed that brings them up to the 20%. But if we count the pool now, they're gonna need a variance, whereas last week they wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So,
That's meet current code. Unless they get an easement like the guy in the restaurant did. Now, how did he get his building almost up without going through the next meeting, it's supposed to be the 21st?
well, let's stick with this first, and
Yeah.
then we can talk about that. One item at a time.
well, personally, and if this is a legal issue, then it should go to
Okay,
the
okay.
lawyer.
I just didn't know
I
if there's a
personally don't
strong.
feel that we should start covering something as a ground coverage that never has been. Even if you say, oh, well, from here on, I want to cover it. I don't think we should do it.
Well, anybody putting an in-ground pool in or above ground pool, they need a permit.
They do need a permit.
So they can't come in and put some kind of Olympic-sized pool on a half-acre lot and.
No.
No, they still have to meet requirements. It's
Okay.
not that pools aren't being regulated, it's just whether or not they're being included and counted towards coverage. And, you know, looking at this now, closer as we're talking about it, it does say in this bulk chart that it's the maximum lot coverage by buildings as percentage of lot,
And not all
Yeah.
structures are
Area.
buildings.
I mean,
which doesn't, right, and not, right, so a pool isn't a building,
No, it's a structure, and it said not all structures are buildings.
right? Okay.
There should be.
So
But I,
unfortunately,
I'm gonna bring all my questions to you guys.
yeah, but, I agree with Fran, too.
unfortunately, the way our zoning regulations have evolved over the years, there are so many little nuances that, one thing contradicts the other, and they've never really been straightened out.
Well, that's one thing that I'd like to talk with you about maybe at another meeting when everyone's here. But looking at maybe the capital budget going forward and putting a line item in there to have a consultant help us with these zoning regs.
Well, we
I
tried
don't
to
know if that was
revise
ever
the
done.
zoning regs before. It was a couple of years, I don't think you guys were on the board, but a couple of years ago, we did do a lot of
Okay.
of zoning. Carol did a lot of it, and
Yeah.
then brought them to us, and,
Right.
we discussed it and voted on it and so forth. I would think the only way, and I look at everything pragmatically, is that you would have to take section by section.
Yes.
And it could take forever. And that's okay, but maybe you prioritize where you think the worst is. To spend money on a consultant,
Right.
you'll have the
I know,
council
yeah.
down your throat,
Yep.
like,
Right.
And
I-
God knows our budget doesn't allow
Right.
for stamps, if you want.
I guess the biggest thing too is just making sure that any legislative updates that have occurred are reflected in our regulations. So that we're current with state statute, cause,
Well, I mean, everything does go to the regional, and he pretty much knows the legality. I mean, the
no, but I
guy.
just mean like current language, language that's in here.
Well, if there's a statute update from the state, isn't it sent to the town? That should be incorporated through the town manager, the town engineers.
Well, I haven't seen any, I mean, I've only been here for a year, but I haven't seen any come through that way. And I don't know if Carol used to incorporate them as they came through.
Is there?
I don't know that they're
I don't
subjected
know.
to the town.
Yeah, I don't think that there has ever been anything that's come from the state.
Does the town supersede the state?
No,
What, for zoning regulations? I don't think so, because every single town has their own set of regulations.
Right,
So, I
right.
mean, it can't be superseded by the state.
So I'm saying
And I don't
that's
think
the
the state
town.
has any involvement in it.
Right.
I
okay.
think at my other commissions, it says it's, the state is the authority, but if the towns is
More
stricter
strict.
than the state, then you go by the town.
Right, okay.
Okay, that's helpful. Piece by piece.
Done?
Okay, so, is there anything else here?
Other items?
I'm sorry?
No,
Other items.
That's
item-
all-
last
Yeah.
item,
That's
there's
all I
a-
had.
and then I can be Charlie.
Yes,
Well, I have one question, that you said, at the meeting we had on the Pacilios, that we had to give him approvals?
yes,
For him to go to Z and B to get, or
ZBA, yep,
to get all his final approvals
right.
before the meeting on the 21st, to get the approvals to build the building. But the building's up.
So, no, so what you approved that footprint, you approved
Yeah, we
that,
did,
that building
and allowed him to
design.
put it up.
So what was he going back to ZBA for?
To make it, he wanted to get 24 space,
change that, yeah.
the space of
He's got
public.
12 now, so he get 24 in there?
He,
Well, apparently he can do it, but that's where he needs the.
Compact cars only?
And if he gets that, then he can enlarge
back.
his seating area.
Then he has to come back to us, right?
yes, on October 1st.
I mean, the other thing he's gonna come to us with is beer and wine that he's asking for, which,
October 1st, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Same meeting.
a whole another debacle.
This
I
year was
think-
denied, 3 years ago was denied again.
What?
You said that Avanti's applied for it,
A
and they were
variance.
denied.
They applied for a variance, which is different than a text amendment.
At
The
the
one was
last
for beer
meeting,
and wine, right?
at the last meeting, I did mention that at the regional, the towns, all the towns that were there, and they're all represented, agree that the whole thing about the churches and the synagogues or whatever is so outdated, and they're really looking to get rid of it. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to be able to get it, because we have that, so many,
Gee, yeah.
no, that's only for liquor outlets. So, no, we said that anybody, whether you have served liquor and I serve liquor, anybody can serve it.
Next
Doesn't
to
matter
it.
how far away you are.
Mhm.
From each other, right?
Right.
And the other thing that I've been looking at as well is BYOB. As far as my reading of the regulations, and I called the state does not regulate bring your own beer or wine. And our regulations say that we regulate the retail sale, if that's redundant, of liquor for consumption on or off premises. It doesn't talk about if someone brings it themselves. So I don't know if that's a loophole.
Well, it could be because when,
And Nada's.
Nada's,
bring
yeah,
home
when
beer.
Nada's was up the street, you could bring your own wine or beer.
To this day, not
So
as,
again, it looks like it's all contradictory. Either you have the regulation and you stick by it, or you don't have it. And as I said, most of them agree that these are really outdated. It isn't like kids are walking from the school, that they're walking past the liquor store. And then, not only that, today with all our laws about serving or selling to minors, you know, it just doesn't make sense not to rewrite the whole regulation and just abolish it, except for the one that you can only have, like a liquor store, you know, that one there, that you can only have so many within, you know, so many feet of each other.
with the BYOB, the liability is on the person that brings the liquor, not the proprietor of the restaurant. So
I don't know how that works, you know, I mean,
I
that
did-
may be.
I did check on that, and I asked a couple of restaurants in the area, you know, why they don't have a bar. And it was for the reason that if anyone gets drunk, it's the problem of the person
Consumer.
the consumer, because
Consumer.
the restaurant did not serve any liquor to anyone.
Well, that's
So-
kind of a real loophole, because if you have a kid and he's at, and not anybody, your wife or your husband or something is at a gathering, and everybody brings your own liquor, the restaurant owner isn't aware that you're drunk out of your mind. I mean, yes, it could be he's not liable, but bring that to court and see who's gonna win.
He didn't serve the liquor.
Hmm?
He
But he
didn't
let
serve
him
it.
get
I
it.
realize that.
We
He
let him
didn't
get
buy
in
it,
the
he
car.
didn't serve it.
Well, all I'm saying is that if it went to court, what would the outcome be? I might even have to go to the Supreme Court, but you don't know. So, I don't know, I'm for getting rid of the darn thing.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I
that's
think
our
that-
last item on the,
Yes,
so that being said, anything else?
that's all. There may have been one other item that I can't remember that Fran brought up, but I'll remember.
Oh,
it
that was this
first.
one,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, good, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the minute they started, when I read it, I knew that's had to be what it is,
Okay.
because it was exactly the way
Right.
my kids told me it was.
Okay, good.
We didn't want me to
Brought
sign
to
this.
your attention.
Where Harry Dulac usually signs.
Yes, please.
So it was brought to your attention, the town's attention, that this apartment was for rent.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean, was brought to your attention?
Their tenant, a former tenant, had called and asked
You know, one of-
if we had any record of,
You know, a good-do neighbor.
A former tenant, named to be unknown,
I don't remember his name, I mean, I have it in my office, but,
just seems kind of,
no, I spoke with him on the phone, I met him out at the property.
so the former tenant is asking whether it's a proper apartment?
Yes,
But he-
because,
And how long did this former tenant live there for?
at least a year.
And why was he complaining now after the fact?
Yeah, that probably was a problem. and
Right,
that's
right,
just
of course, there's a
vendetta to get
dispute.
back at him.
Hmm.
There's a
It's
dispute.
simple.
And, you know, and he asked for evidence that we had that on file, you know, permit on file, special use permit through, you know.
I mean, God
accessory
forbid,
dwelling.
people live and let live, you know?
Anyway, I motion we adjourn.